Okay, welcome back everyone. Into this video, we're going to talk about robotics. Of course, we are going to talk about building a robot. Now, this is part of module 5, and sadly, I'm a little bit in traveling, so I have to move my setup, and there's a lot of shifting happening. But without any further ado, I mean, we're going to definitely dive into it and do this course and finish this course, of course. So in this video, we're going to talk about actually how we can build a robot. Okay, when I talk about building a robot, it comprises of lots and lots of parts. Okay, and for someone who is absolutely new, it can be quite challenging. So I'm going to talk about and understand and make you understand all of these parts section by section, so that you are competent enough that you know what exactly is happening and how you can handle such a situation where you can build your own robot. Okay, so there are three essential components that we're going to talk about. One is the physical hardware, okay, the hardware of the robot. Second is basically the software that is there. Third is basically the electronics, okay. Now, hardware is basically the body, the chassis, all that stuff. The electronics is something which you can include sensors, all the other things that you want, and the software includes the programming of it. Okay, we have already talked and covered a lot of things here and there. Now I'm gonna boil it down and put it all into one thing so that you can understand this thing together as a one single block. Perfect. So let's start with the physical hardware. Okay. No. So the first thing that I want you all to do is I want you all to go to tinkercad.com, because over here you can actually design your own robots as well. That is the best thing. Okay. So if you go to 3D design and you click on create and click on 3D design, okay, what you would see is essentially that you have the possibility of having your own 3D model. Okay. Now, for anyone who has not done this before, don't worry. Okay, making 3D models is pretty easy if you know what exactly you're building. Okay, I'll give you a very pro tip that you can possibly use. You can actually go to amazon.in, okay, and also order robot body parts, okay, and you would come across different kits which are there. Okay, like this one is there for like 9,000 bucks, okay, which is a little expensive. You have these ones which are there. Don't buy all these Chinese toys and all. These are absolute wastage of money. Okay, something like this which is there, these are all kits which are made for robotic developers and people who want to work with robots. Okay, these are much more viable, these are much more useful, and you can actually put them into practice quite easily as well. Okay, so that being said, okay, once we have understood that we are going to possibly see and look on all these things, now we can actually go back over here, okay, and understand how we can create our own things as well. Okay, now I'll give you a very simple example. Let's say you want to make a robot which has two motors. Okay, I'm going to talk about these motors. These are known as BO motors. Okay, BO motors. Okay, so BO motors are this one, which is like this. Okay, now what you can do is you can just go over here and write BO motors and with just dimensions. Okay, dimensions. Perfect. Now if you go to images, not shopping, okay, my bad. Yeah, if you go over here, you would have the exact dimension of this thing. Okay, now for some people it can be quite tricky to understand this. Okay, so for those people I would recommend just going to Google again, and you just search for, let's say, 100 rpm motor. Okay, and you would get something like this. These are far more easier to understand. Okay, because all they have is one single nut that holds the entire motor. Okay, so if you want to design your robots, these are the most easiest one which is there. So let's say you find this one is like a good one. Okay, you go to Google again and you write this thing, and go to images. Okay, and write for dimensions. Perfect. So you'll get this diagram. Okay, and this diagram shows you what is the length, what is the breadth, and all the other things as well. Okay, so now you can see that the total length of the motor is 8 centimeters. So the motor is 8 centimeter long, which is quite long actually. And now you can actually see more details about this thing, more specification if you want, but I think that's the first thing that you need to know. Okay, then what you need to do is you actually need to go back over here, okay, onto your CAD design. Okay, and you can start actually building with one single layer, okay, like a block. Okay, now what we need to do is we need to make a square sort of robot, which is very easy in design. So you can actually like do it rough-handedly like this. I like to do it rough-handedly because it's initially so it's easy. Now I'll set the thickness of the wall as 2. Okay, so the thickness is set to 2, and increase the length to 40. Okay, I think that's too quite less, so let's keep it like 80. I think double it up. Yeah, I think this is pretty nice. Okay, so I'll keep it over here. Okay, and I can see that it's already looks pretty okay. Now what I need to do is I need to figure out the motor and how it's going to fit. So the way you fit this motor is quite easy. You have this huge lock nut in the front, okay, and you open this nut up, okay, and you just make a hole in the on the wall and just plug it inside. That's how you mount this thing. It doesn't really have any external mounting like other motors like these ones. If you see, they have holes over here to mount and fix the motor in place. But for this one, it's pretty easy. You just need to like make a hole and you're quite good to go. So for anyone who is not able to find the dimensions, I actually have worked with this motor before. So the dimension for this one or this nut is essentially M8, but usually people set it to M9. Okay, M9 basically, when you say M9 or M8. Okay, so M8 is basically M8 nut, not M8 car. Okay, so yeah, this is basically the M8 nut. M8 is basically meters. Okay, if you're using millimeter, kilometers, those are matrices unit. Okay, if you go to the US, then it's different unit altogether. So that's a I think UTF or UTA unit. Yeah, that's a different unit altogether. But we use M8 as in Indian standards and European standards. So we need to make an M8. For an M8, you need to have a hole which is actually of M9, okay, so that you have enough spacing. Because since you're going to 3D print this design, you don't want to be in a situation where it's not there. Now, if you see over here carefully, you actually have a cylinder which is transparent, okay. Now, this transparent cylinder is basically symbolizing that you can have a hole, okay. So this is a hole cylinder. Okay, so you can actually like see the sides and everything as well, of course. And yeah, this gives you the control that you want. Now, if you see, okay, you can actually like see this thing from different sides and you can see how much this is going to be. But at the end, you need to have a hole which is of M8, okay? Now, if you go back to the dimensions of this thing, you can see it says M8 in between, okay? That means that the distance to distance of this hole is essentially going to be 8 mm, okay? Now, for our design, what we are going to do, we are going to click on this thing, okay, and click over here and make it 9, okay, because we want M9, okay, and for this as well M9. Now if you see, we actually have a hole which is exactly of M9 now, okay, which fits really well, and you can actually place it over here, okay, and you can be very rough in this thing. I can be very accurate in this thing as well because I know the dimension is 8, so the centroid is going to be at 4, okay, so this is 4 and this is also going to be 4, okay. So I am very sure this is like their accurate position, okay, and I'll just press OK. Okay, so now we just select hole and we are good to go. Perfect. Now you can see this position is correct, okay. I can just now move this cylinder, okay, and move it inside the plane, okay. It might have moved a little bit. I'm not guaranteeing it's not going to move, but yeah, okay. So now this is basically a hole, okay. So if you when you export this thing at the end, you can actually see this is going to be a hole, okay. So if you export for STL, which is downloading, I am actually going to show you now how does it look. Okay, Mac opens quite a lot of things. Let me actually show it to you with the viewer. So if you're using a Mac, by the way, the good thing is it shows you the model right away. You don't need to have any external softwares, which is quite nice, but let me show it to you. Okay, a lot of pop-ups opening for me. Yeah, okay, so if you see over here in my downloads, it has a hole over here, which is absolutely perfect. We want it this way. Now this is being done and we have okay, I moved the camera, yeah, my bad. So since this is being done, okay, and this works really well, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to copy and move this thing again, okay. I just copy pasted Control C, Control V. Okay, if you're using a Mac, then it's Command C, Command V, of course. And then you just move this box over here. Okay, and over here, if you see that you have this box, you just zoom in and try to find the right position. Okay, try to locate this thing at the right place wherever you want, of course. Yeah, you can take some references, but overall, even if you're like a little off, that should be fine, to be honest. This is your first design. You're doing this for the first time. It's not really a big deal, okay. I just click on the right plane so that I'm aligned with this thing, okay. I'm perfectly aligned with this thing. You can enable and disable this depth view, which I personally do it all the time because I want to be very precise with the location of this thing, and sometimes it's like really helpful. So if you see I'm on the right exact plane, I mean just moving over here, which makes it quite easy for me to, you know, rely that this is actually at the right place. Perfect. Now we have done this and this looks amazing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bind this off and, you know, lock all these things. By how? You can just right click on this thing, or you actually have a grouping option over here. I remember, I think they removed it. I know they have it over here. Okay, group. Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna group it, and once you group it, you can see that the holes are actually now installed, and, you know, they're combined into this thing, which is amazing. So I can just now copy this thing and make another copy of this one. Okay, and I can just align it properly. As you can just go to the top view, disable the 3D depth view, like this. Okay, so now I know that, you know, I'm exactly at the right place where I have to be. Okay, I just still compare it, you know, it's better to be sure than having a problem later. Okay, so I'm gonna move this thing with this line, along this line. Yeah, and I'm gonna move it until 50. Yeah, I think this is perfect. So now I have two planes which are at a distance of 50. Okay, next what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another block, which is again quite helpful. I'm going to decrease the thickness to 3 again. If you remember, we used 3 in the previous one as well, and the height is already the same, which is amazing, so I don't really have to do a lot of work. Now this time, if you see, I can possibly align this thing inside like this, or I can align this like this. I personally recommend doing like this because then you have enough space. Okay, and what you can do is you can actually like increase the length now, like this. Okay, so now I'm actually at the right place, and I can just fix this block which is not aligned properly. Perfect. So now if you see, we have the holes for the motor, we also have the, you know, wall as well. And sometimes you might feel that, you know, this space is quite less for the motor, and that can be true. You know, sometimes motors are bigger. In that case, what you can do is you can actually have a little bit of distance like this, go to the top like this. Okay, and have a filler block as well. Okay, so that's what I'm gonna do. I think this is a little less, so I can actually just move it up here. Yeah, I think this is nice. Next I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a block like this. Okay, decrease the thickness to 3, of course, because we are working with 3 as the thickness. Okay, my bad. Okay, I think we took 2. Okay, apologies. Yeah, dimensions get mixed up sometimes. Okay, perfect. So now we have this thickness and this thickness. I'm gonna move this block over here. Okay, now what I need is like exact same copy of this block now, to fit this thing. Okay, it's more like a Lego, you know. A lot of people call it Lego. I like to call it Lego. I love Lego, so, you know, why not? Okay, perfect. So now this looks amazing. Okay, I'm gonna actually duplicate all these 3 blocks and, you know, paste them. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna move them over here and rotate them. Okay, you can see there's a rotation angle, a rotation handler or handle over here. Okay, I'm not saying this is the best designing software, but it has the basic functionality that you need, which is pretty impressive for, you know, especially for kids. Yeah, okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm gonna put it over here. Perfect. And I'm actually going to combine everything. Okay, so one way of doing this is just like this, and you can just go over here and union everything, and you see you have one single block. Absolutely amazing. Okay, so if you have done it until here, I am very sure you are very proud of yourself, of course, and you should be. Okay, now what you need to do is you need to do a little bit of extra things which is there. Okay, you can possibly like increase one of the walls thickness. Okay, like you can actually like increase the height of this one, you know, to just be sure, you know, that it's a little more higher. But even if you are working with this, I think this is very minimal and very good. What you do really need is a support. Okay, you need a support in the center. Okay, so that the body doesn't really wobble that much. And personally recommending, I recommend that, you know, that you make multiple supports which are there, which makes the structure quite strong. So I think I'm going to with 4 thickness this time, a little more thicker. I'm going to go into the top. Okay, and I'm going to look at like this, that I'm going to push it over here or move it in the center and increase this like this. Okay, and then I'm actually going to go back and I'm actually going to move it here. Okay, and then copy and then paste. Perfect. So as you can see, this looks pretty nice. I like the design so far. I can see that, this is a little closer to this side, so maybe I can move it up till here. Okay, and this looks okay. Let's just go back again to the top, and now you can essentially assemble all these things and combine it together. Okay, now you have a pretty good design already. Now you can make it more dynamic with more, holes and everything. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna add a little bit of holes just to have wiring and everything intact. Okay, also to have the batteries enclosed. Actually, you can use the center part for your battery if you want. That's pretty helpful. Yeah. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this, and put somewhere here so that I have a whole dimension. Okay. And yeah, I'm actually going to change the dimension of this thing to 10. So this is going to be like a 10 mm hole and 10. Okay. And now, yeah, this looks perfect. It's like this now. Okay. So as you can see, we have a hole in the center. This entire body looks pretty good. We need a hole over here now. You can actually undo this process and increase the length of this thing quite long. So like this. Yeah, perfect. Okay, and like this. Okay. See, I like to do it like this way because I know it's a little not so symmetric, but you can fix all these things. That's the best part. You can go wrong in this thing, so and you can fix it later. So that's something which I like. Perfect. So now this looks pretty good. I'm going to select this and group it again, and you can see we have the body of the robot now. Okay, and this looks pretty nice. I like it so far. Okay, now in this case what I can do is I can have some headlights or something attached, or something or the other attached on the front or on the back, and I have holes for that. Okay, so which is pretty amazing. I also have holes in the center just to have the wiring and everything. What I can do is I can actually like install like a box thing on the top. I added a box thing on the top. Yeah, let me move it. Perfect. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually move it until here and decrease the height. Okay, so this essentially is like a lid. I'm not going to combine it with the body because then that doesn't really make sense. I would rather want it to be like an independent thing. But if you see, the problem is fundamentally it doesn't really like it's not going to automatically stick into the box, right? So we need to have provisions so that it can actually fit into the box as well. Now you might be thinking how we can achieve that. Now I'll tell you how you can achieve that. Okay, let me put this on the side for a second. Okay, what you need is you need a compartment that can go inside and fit inside the block properly. Okay, and for that these walls are perfect, but these walls have to be trimmed off. Okay, and that's what we're going to do. We are actually going to go to this empty block and place it over here. Okay, now look at this step pretty carefully. This is very important actually. And I'm actually going to go down for 2 mm. Okay, so this is going to be the dimension that I want. So 2 mm depth. Okay, and I'm going to exactly place it over here. Okay, and then increase the dimension like this so that we have this. Now what is going to happen is when I unite the body with this block, okay, it's going to make a cut, and you can see the cut which is added over here. Okay, and this cut is essentially going to be the one which is going to be responsible for making sure that this fits in properly. Okay, so this is like a lid. Okay, it's like that small boxes that you have at your house, that you don't have a handle for, but you actually like can just fit and put it inside. It's the same thing for this one. Now if you want to be creative and you don't want to like keep the lid intact all the time, you can actually remove the lid as well, and that's like always an option. But for us right now, I am concerned that this is going this way. Okay, so if you see over here, what we did is like pretty good, actually pretty nice. Actually, I like it. I like the design so far. You can see that once it is done, you can actually put it like this, and it's gonna go inside the box without any problems. Okay, and it's not gonna clash with anything. Okay, because everything is like of the perfect dimension. You can increase or decrease the thickness of this thing if you want to exact 2 mm, so that it perfectly sinks into the design. Okay, but that's something which is a personal choice. I don't really have any problem right now. This is 1 mm. Okay, if you want, you can actually like make it at 2, so it's like perfectly going to go inside. Okay, and it's going to sink in like this, and just click on the right. You see, the entire idea is, and actually I think you can change the viewports to different sides, and you can see it as well if this looks good. For me, I think it looks really good. And now, see, you see, the whole idea is over here. What we are doing and what we are building is, we are building a robot. We are building a design of a robot from the absolute very basic, and we don't want it to be very complicated. Okay, now you see this design. Okay, this design is pretty basic for any wheeled robot. Okay, any motor based robot. Okay, now after this you might be thinking, where are the wheels? Of course you can buy the wheels as well, and I would recommend buying wheels and not 3D printing them. You can buy wheels like these. If you want for this one, you can just write, you can just, I think, go over here and they would recommend it to you. Amazon is pretty good at recommending, so I think so they might just recommend it to you. Okay, they are not. Okay, that's a disappointment. Let's see. Okay, let's just write it then. Yeah, this one. So maybe you can buy this one actually. This is like a full kit with wheels and motors and everything. Okay, pretty helpful. I mean, but make sure that the dimension of the motors whole are exactly the same as the one that I'm using. But yeah, I mean, then you can use the exact same thing. That's the best part about Amazon. Yeah, you see these things are pretty cheap over here in India. I mean, but consider, like, let's say Germany, and you say like motors robot with wheels. Okay, let's say even you take this thing. Okay, this is like 11 euros. Okay, 11 euros, and if you convert it euro to INR, I know I'm just being a little picky, so it's like, okay, 900 bucks, but in India I think you'll get for like 600 rupees or something. It's a little expensive, but I think it's okay. I'm just a little being picky on the side. But yeah, I mean, since you have components that are pretty cheap, I think it's a good thing. But the good thing is, like, in Germany, I think you can find quite a lot of good robot kits and robot chassis to play around with. But that's a different thing altogether. Okay, coming back. Okay, now you can actually see that things are going pretty well. You can now actually add your own wheels as well if you need, and I would keep all of these things a little on the side. So I don't want to mix out the things which are not required right now, so I'm going to keep it like this. What I can do is I can actually make a wheel as well. All you need to do is you need to understand how and what exactly that the dimensions are. I'm not going to go in detail of how you can make a wheel. I'm just going to put a dummy wheel instead. Just to say that that we have a wheel which looks like a wheel. It's not really a wheel, so don't make it or 3D print this thing right away. It's just for representation purposes, just to be sure. By the way, some people might be wondering, how do I change the color of this robot over here? Okay, you can just click this place and select your color. I don't like green. I think I'll go with what do you call blue. Yeah, this is nice. Okay, we need to rotate this thing. Okay, I know this is like not necessary at all. I'm just gonna delete this one. I think two ways are fine just for representation. And then I'm actually going to, what do you call, move this block back. Okay, like this. So we have it here. Okay, I can actually go into the top and align it properly like this one, and then bring it down like with this handle. Okay, if you're like when you actually like are working with a little more advanced software like Fusion 360 or SolidWorks, then these options are pretty complex. So that's why for anyone who is just starting with robotics, I think this is like an absolute perfect opportunity. to not really mess around with a lot of things and still be fine with it. Okay, now we have designed this robot and I'm pretty happy with this thing. Next thing we need to do, we need to 3D print this robot. Let me close all these extra links which are there. Okay, we don't need this, we need that. We need Kura. So what is Kura? Kura is basically a software which is used for 3D printing. Okay, now how do I make you understand this thing? This is a very complex thing, but made in a very simple format. For Kura, the thing is, it has pretty much every printer in the world. Okay, if it's a good printer which is known around the world, it would be in Kura. No second thoughts, because Kura is just having such a high compatibility with everything. You can install Kura. It's for free, of course. You download for free. You have every operating system. I personally have used it with Linux, okay, and also on Mac. Both of them worked really well. With Windows, I think it should be fine. I have heard that some Mac have problem with Kura because they are M1. I actually have M1 Mac, so I can say that it has some problems. But with Linux, it works really well. With Windows, I think some of my friends have used it, so it's pretty nice as well. You can install the software Ultimaker Kura. Once you have it installed, I think then you're quite good to go. I actually haven't installed, so I'm just gonna open the software and show it to you. But yeah, this is an important software. If you have a 3D printer, then I think this is the best thing that you need to install, and you might already have it. Yeah, so but you need to have a 3D printer to build this robot. If you don't have a 3D printer, I can recommend you multiple things. You can buy a 3D printer if you need. Okay, in India, luckily, I think 3D printers are going pretty cheap in price. Okay, so printer, I think you can buy a 3D printer for like 12,000 now. Okay, so this is quite insane actually. When I first got my 3D printer, I think I paid like 25,000 or something. So considering that these are so cheap, I would recommend buying these off. But if you have a budget, maybe you can buy something like this one, which is a very reliable printer. Okay, this one is extremely reliable. Okay, and the good thing is this has a lot of community. So Creality, Wall 3D printer. And I'm not sure 3D IDE, I imagine all these printers are gonna last or not, but this one lasts really long, like really long. So that's something which I personally love. And if you have a little bit more budget, you can actually, oh, okay, this is a new one. Okay, this is so cheap actually. Now I am quite tempted. It's a resin printer, okay, for 12,000. Okay, so I think this is a pretty good deal as well. I mean, whatever you buy it from Creality. I think Creality or Ender 3D, they are one of the top printers, which are good for beginners, of course, not for professionals. If you have a higher budget, I would recommend buying Ultimaker 3D printer. Yeah. Okay, I'm not sure if it's available through Amazon in India, but if you buy it, I think that would be fine. I think maybe you can buy PRUSA as well, PRUSA 3D printer. Okay, that's not available in India, so I think you are left with Creality. But if you are living, if you have connections abroad, you can actually got PRUSA 3D printer. PRUSA is the PRUSA people are the founder of 3D printer, and they're like on the top. Okay, so their 3D printers are insanely good. I mean, insanely good. Yeah, even they have this Mini Plus, which is quite cheap compared to the precision that you get. They are very precise as well, by the way. And the good thing is, like, their 3D printers are actually printed by their 3D printers as well. Okay, so they're all like printed in house. They have a huge factory. So yeah, I think they are pretty good. So if you have a budget of this one, maybe you can buy this one, but there's no restriction. I mean, there's obviously no biasing. If you know someone who has a 3D printer, you can actually call them and tell them, can you 3D print these parts for me? Perfect. A lot of talking about the 3D printer, okay, but I think I'll configure it for my printer. I actually have a couple of printers. I think I'm going to go with Ultimaker 2 Plus, but I think I can do it for Creality 3, because if people are watching this and they're buying a 3D printer, they might be buying a Creality 3 Ender 3, which is the starter 3D printer, which is pretty good. So yeah, why not do it for that? Okay, great. So now I have this part. What I can do is I can actually export this part. Let me get rid of all these wheels just to be very sure. Okay, export, and yeah, I can just say this selected shape. Okay, and just say STL. Okay, STL is the file that is required for printing. Then the top selected type STL, and it's done. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the downloads, pick this up, drop it over here, pick the second part up and drop it over here. And you can see all of these parts are now, on the plane. Okay. Now, one thing which is very important is that the 3D printer should be big enough that it can print all your parts. Okay. I personally recommend printing them like this, but you have holes over here. Okay, so they might need a little bit of support. I'll tell you how that works as well. Okay. A lot of people might be thinking this is a very complex process, but let me tell you, it's not. It's actually one of the easiest process to 3D print any part these days. You don't need to have extreme amount of knowledge about anything. You just need to be good with using a laptop. That's all. Okay, perfect. So now you have your parts, which is pretty amazing. Now what you can do is you can actually look around, see if it's good or not. You can move these things with these arrows. Okay, move this one with the arrow. Okay, perfect. Now I think I like all these things being kept over here. So I think this is perfect. One thing I can do, I can actually flip these things as well if I need, like this. If you need to conserve space, or if you're printing more parts, you can actually print a lot more parts like this. But I won't recommend this because this is a very huge plane, and if you print like this, you might end up not making it as strong as it could be. So this is a good option to print like this. Okay. Some people say that it might stick, but considering it depends on the 3D printer actually. Some printers make sure things are not sticking at all, and it also depends on your settings. Okay, for now what you can do is you can just click on this profile button and click on super quality for very high quality. Yeah, I think I'll go with discard changes. Yeah, so this is at a super quality. If you are not having this interface, I can tell you how that works as well. You can just click on add a printer. Okay, right now I'm not in my workspace, so I don't have any network connected printer. I am going to just add a non-network printer, which is going to be Creality. Okay, so let's look for Creality 3D. Okay, they have Bamboo as well. I think they have Bamboo. We recently got to see Bamboo once. Okay, on online expo, but yeah, that's fine. Okay, so Creality 3, Ender 3, which is the standard one. Demo test. Okay, add extruder 1. Yeah, there's only one extruder, so it's not a big deal. Yeah, you don't need to you don't need to set on any of these things. These are already pre-configured, and just click on it. Just click on the 3D Creality 3 Ender demo, and you will see this thing. Okay, now if you see, you have prepare, preview, monitor. Okay, monitor is when you are using it on a network. That's only when you would actually need this thing. Otherwise you don't need this thing for sure. So you just click on prepare. Okay, and over here I think what you can do is you just keep the models. Okay, and once you have kept the models, what you can do is you can actually go over here on the side. I think my video is blocking this button. Okay, let me actually scroll it down like this. Okay, yeah, and you'll get this button. Okay, no, I don't want to update it. Slice. Okay, so slicing is basically nothing, but it's going to make it for the 3D printer. And if you click on preview, okay, you can see that it's now layered and having all the settings that you need and everything configured. And if you move the slider, you can see you can actually see that all the layers which are going to be printed and how it's going to be printed. So it's going to be like this. Perfect. Now I haven't talked about supports yet, so that's something which is very important. You can actually go over here, okay, and check the infill. Now, what is infill? Infill is the strength of the 3D printed part that you're going to print. I want it to be super strong, so I'm going to change it to 80, okay, which is going to make it really strong, okay. That's a good setting. Don't go with 100%. Then it's going to take huge amount of time, and I don't think so. It's worth it. 80% is always a good thing because sometimes you need a little bit of flexibility, and 80% is just perfect. It worked every time for everything. Cooling, of course, you need 100% cooling. Then you need support. Yes, I do need support. Where I need the support only where the holes are present. So it would ask you which support you need. I would go with tree support. Okay, tree supports are easier to break. And support replacement everywhere. No, I don't want it to be everywhere. I want it only if it's okay. Yeah, sorry. Actually, I want it everywhere. If you say touching build plate, then in the holes you won't get it. Okay, so you need it everywhere. Okay, supporting over angle, don't play with all these things. Then we have something known as built plate addition. Okay, so how do you want to stick the part to this thing? You can go with a raft, okay, which takes a little bit of time, but makes sure that the part is printed and built very well. Yeah, some people don't like craft because they think it's a lot of wastage for the part, but I think it's pretty nice actually. If you see how it is building it up, okay. Even if for the holes, okay. You see how it is planning these things, okay. You can see that even for the holes you are actually like having a lot of branches, so that you can remove this thing pretty easily, okay. And that's what I like. The software optimizes all these flow diagrams and flow things, just to make sure that your parts are pretty well built, okay. And you can actually scale it up, you can move it down, and just to see how this entire print is going to look like, okay. And you can see they are actually doing it pretty well, okay. Even the parts are like quite different. They are handled, and they are built quite well, which I think personally I really like. And yeah, you can actually, like, if you feel that this is quite complex, you can actually remove the support structure to normal, and then you would get a different projection altogether, which can also be good. Okay, let's layer it up. Yeah, so if you set it normal, then you can see that you just have some light blue color over here, which is going to be the extra material which is going to get added, okay, just to make sure that the holes are absolutely perfect. You can even go with this thing as well, and if you have the setting for support, you can actually set it to 20%. If you're not able to see all of these, no worries, you can actually go to the setting bar and enable them, okay. For me, I have actually like enabled support density and everything, because I think doing it a little more properly always helps. So you can enable all of these things. It's gonna make things make your life quite easy. Yeah, okay. So now we have everything configured, everything placed, and now we are essentially like done with this thing. You just need to like export this thing to an SD card, give it to your friend, and yeah, you're good to go. You can actually like plug it into an, what do you call, a 3D printer, and 3D print this thing. And now we are done with the 3D mechanical design, okay. I hope you understood basics of it, okay. And I know a little more extra, there are things as well, and we're going to talk about it, but I hope you reached until here, okay. And now let's move on to the next part, okay. Okay, so just took a little bit of water break. Now I'm back. Before we move forward, one more thing that I need to talk about regarding all these things is, I know that a lot of people might not be having a 3D printer and not have a service to 3D print as well. For those, I think I have recently figured out something which is very nice. There's this website known as robu.in, okay, and it's in India. And they actually have a service for 3D printing as well, okay. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Yeah. Yeah, 3D printing service. So you can just upload your model, get an ebook and everything. This is nice. This is good. I personally would not really recommend going with such services because of a lot of reasons. They can be quite expensive for sure. That's one. But if you really need the part, you can get the part from these guys. That's something which I really like. I have tried these services once, but not for me, for someone else. Yeah, and they are okay. They are just fine, actually. Because you need so many specifications. It's like such a mess, such a problematical thing. You can actually, like, I think 3D printing service India. Yeah. Yeah, I think they're still just 3D printers who are selling it. Finding 3D printing services is a little harder. I think Robu is the one which is like doing it for now. You can just put your files and everything over here if you want. I don't really recommend still. Okay, I'll just still show it to you. Upload model done, analyzing and everything. Okay, it's still figuring it out. Yeah. You can select a material, by the way. You can change the colors. Volume this thing, print time this thing. Okay. High quality. Next. 20% next. Yeah, 146 rupees. I think that's pretty cheap actually. Okay, now they have reduced the prices. Yeah, you can just add it to cart and they will just ship it to you essentially. Pretty nice actually. I mean, considering that they have something like this, I like it. I was just not sure about the pricing, but now I think this is like pretty nominal. What I thought about it. Okay, I think I'll go with a little more extreme material. Let's go with PLA. Okay, PLA is a nice material. I'll go with high quality next. 80% infill next. Now it's gonna see. Let's see how much this one costs. 500 bucks. I think this is still okay. To be honest, if you don't want to buy a 3D printer, I think this is just fine. But let me tell you something. Once you buy a 3D printer, then the filament cost is quite low. Okay, so if you go on Amazon.in and if you see for filament, okay, my bad. Sometimes I just mess up. Filament 3D printer. You can get the filament for 700 rupees, and this is a 1 kilogram of filament. Okay, when I say 1 kilogram, it's huge. It's like so much that you can print so many things. I can't even tell you. I have a 3D printer that I purchased like last year, and I printed like I think like 20-30 parts out of that, and it was still having a little bit of filament left at that time. So, I can say if you buy a 3D printer, I think it's a good investment. If you know that you want to go into the line of robotics and you want to do this more, you can just, buy a 3D printer and, be happy with it. Yeah. So a lot of information about 3D printing, but yeah, I think this is a good service. I think considering the price and everything, this is pretty nice, with everything, including GST and all. So you just add to cart and, just order it. Yeah, I mean, why not? So I would say, maybe you can order it. Okay, cool. Perfect. So now we have all of these things done. Now let's move on to this electronic part, which is there. Okay, let's go back to our Tinkercad. Go to the main screen. Okay, now over here you can actually go to, yeah, okay, this is a video. I don't want to play this video. Okay, some people are making these things. This is nice. You can make your own mazes. I like Tinkercad because of all these things. Okay, they're actually like, you can, by the way, you can actually print this thing as well. Okay, let's see. Maybe I'll show it to you a little bit. Let me open this one. Okay, download STL. Okay, let me open my Kura. Go to prepare. Okay, get rid of all of these. Put this here. Okay, now this is like a 3D printable maze. Wow. Okay, click on slice. I hope you are able to see this is a button. Yeah, I know it's a little, no. Oh, it's 5 hours. Okay, let's click on preview, and we can see, oh nice, this is not a bad print actually. I mean, I kind of like it, the ball is in the air, that's one thing, but that's okay. But 5 hours for a maze, I think this is a pretty good deal. Yeah, but I think one of the things that I like about this Tinkercad is like you can find so many other prints as well. So maybe buying a 3D printer is not that bad, considering that you can find all these new models which a lot of people have built, and you can download all these models. So I mean, considering that you can print all of these things after you have a 3D printer, I think that's a pretty good price and a deal for your 3D printer, to be honest. It's not going to cost you that much after a while, considering you can have the 3D printer. A lot of my friends actually did this as a business as well, that they bought one 3D printer and they were printing it for other people, and they were charging money. And I think that's a very good business model as well. If you're in college especially, you can see all these fancy designs and all, pretty cool actually. I mean, I like it. Okay, what is this thing? Cardboard cranky. Let's see. Okay, some designs are absolutely amazing actually, Oh, this is like a hand paper thing. Let's say a short promo. Okay, this is gone. Broken link. Yeah, maybe you can actually search it over here as well. Let's see. I don't think so. Okay, maybe they might have search. Okay, they don't. I don't see a search bar. Let's say the trending ones. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, maybe you want a paper bike like this. So you can see this. I mean, as I said, once you get into the world of 3D printing, you can do so much more. I personally have like 3D printed a lot of stuff. Actually, you can actually see on my website as well. I am on lothra.com. That this printer was in this robot was entirely 3D printed. Okay, pretty cool. The snake robot was 3D printed. This robot was 3D printed as well. This was 3D printed as well. This was not. It was very early. Yeah, and I think there are a couple of more if you go on my projects. Yeah, this was entirely laser cut because this was a different thing. But yeah, this a couple of parts of these, not the ones which are visible, were like later on 3D printed. This is entirely 3D printed for sure. I mean, I remember printing it all part by part. Very good print, of course. But yeah, I mean, considering what exactly happens when you're working on 3D printers, I think you can save a lot of money, save a lot of time, and build something amazing. So I think that's pretty obvious to buy something, to buy a 3D printer sometimes, to have a much more higher flexibility in a lot of things. So yeah, that would be my recommendation. Okay, so I think a lot of people have now understood 3D printing, CAD designing, a little bit of basics, I hope so. Just not to overwhelm you with a lot of things, but yeah, this is pretty much there. Okay, now let's move on to electronics. Okay, so we are going to go back to our Tinkercad, create circuit, and we are going to go over here and we are going to work on the circuits. Now, before I dive into circuits, we have done this multiple times, okay, multiple times all in all. Okay, so if you don't remember how we work with electronics, I would recommend watching all the previous videos first, okay, because they cover 99.9% of the things. And if you remember, we have worked with motors, motor drivers, everything else as well, okay, which is pretty much everything you need to know. And once you know that all of these things and how they work, you are pretty much in a state where you just need to figure out the program, okay, or the software. Now, we have already worked with Arduino, okay, but something which is important is that you can actually like buy an Arduino and install the Arduino IDE. Okay, the Arduino IDE or Arduino software, as a lot of people say, is the one that is required if you want to build and program an actual Arduino. If you see over here, it says macOS Apple Silicon. I have Apple Silicon, so this is the one that I need. For Windows, don't go with the zip installer. Don't go with the this Windows 10 installer. I think just the MSI installer or Windows installer should be fine, but don't go with this one. Once there was this some things, I don't know what exactly was it, but yeah, I think just don't go with the zip installer. I think that's pretty bad. With Linux, I think you can go with the app image. That's pretty easy. With zip file is going to be a little difficult. So that's one. Okay, you can actually go with the classic IDEs as well. Just never do install this one. Okay, it's horrible. I have used this. It's pretty bad. Arduino PLC is something. Okay, this is a little different. Okay, they actually have a code online as well. So maybe let's try that. Yeah, accept all cookies. Okay, okay, this is for okay. You need sign in and all. I don't want to sign in and everything. This is too boring. Once you have the Arduino IDE installed, it's going to go like this and look like this. Okay, it's opening on my other screen. You let it open. Perfect. Okay. Now you have the Arduino IDE. I have a couple of codes already here opening. Okay, but the main thing is the code that you have on your Tinkercad. You can just copy paste that code over here and program an actual Arduino. Okay, the way you do that is you go to tools, you connect your Arduino, okay, and you go to tools, and you can select the Arduino board which is there from the USB port. So you can just click on port and select the USB port. I don't have an Arduino right now, but yeah, this is where it should be visible. And you can select the Arduino board. Let's say you have Arduino Uno, so Uno. And yeah, that's it. You just click on upload and it's going to upload it. It's very straightforward, very easy as well. It's not that difficult, to be honest, for kids to learn Arduino these days, because a lot of online resources as well. And I would recommend installing this software when you're building a robot. Perfect. So now we have covered the software part, the electronics part, and also the hardware part. And I hope you got a lot of idea of all these things. I'll see you very soon. And till then,